Hello, I'm Lugatorix and welcome to my Brutii faction guide. Today we're going to be going through the different unit types available in the Brutii campaign, along with different buildings that they have on offer, and also having a look at the campaign map. And I'm just going to be giving some advice and tips on how to succeed playing as the Brutii Romans. So just looking at the map quickly here, we can see that the Brutii own two settlements in the south of Italy. We'll be looking at that in greater detail, but first I want to have a look at the unit types. Now, I did a video the other day on the Scipii. I did a Scipii faction guide where I went through every single Roman unit post and pre-Marian reforms. So if you want to see every single Roman unit type, you can go and look at that video. The Brutii have exactly the same units apart from one, which we're going to have a look at. Otherwise, they have the same access to the Praetorians, their Stati, etc, etc. So yeah, if you want to see that, go back a video and watch that. But yeah, we're going to look at the unit types right now. Okay, so these are the unit types available to the Brutii. As you can see, that they are all exactly the same as the Scipii have, and the same as the Julii as well. They have the same access to all these troops. The only difference between the three factions in terms of the unit types are the gladiators available. So when you get to the arena, to the highest level, I believe it's Colosseum, each faction gets access to different units, and the Brutii get access to Velite gladiators. They're more like light infantrymen, that's what the game says in fact. So they're very light, they have excellent morale, which is the same as the Scipii gladiators that we looked at the other day. And these guys are quite good for light infantry. 14 defense is pretty decent, they have 2 hit points, 12 attack, so coupled with the excellent morale, they're quite good. Only 40 soldiers in the unit, which I tend to prefer having like 80, like the traditional cohort have. But they still do the job. They're armed with a spear and a small shield. And they're fast moving, as is a characteristic of the light infantry. So other than that, all their infantry are the same. All their other archers and ballistae and all that are exactly the same. So we're going to be having a look now at the campaign map. Okay, so this is the campaign map for the Brutii. The first thing you get is a request by the Senate to take Apollonia, a small rebel settlement from here. But we'll look past that for a second. We just look and see what they've got over here. So in Tarentum, this is the capital city. We have Vivius Brutus over here, and he is a family member, of course, and he is armed with a Hastati and a Velites. So not hugely strong as defended this city. It's enough for the early game though. And then we have the faction leader Tiberius Brutus, also armed with a Hastati and a Velites. And there are 2 starting armies of the Brutii. One up here is Aulus Brutus, with once again a Hastati and a Velites. It's quite interesting to see that. And then Amulius Brutus, who is armed with an Equites, 2 Hastati and a Velites. This is your biggest army so far. And the mercenaries that are available from the get-go are Samnite mercenaries. Yes, indeed. They're okay. They're kind of spearmen. They're good against cavalry. I would say they're slightly better than the Triarii. But the only thing is, as mercenaries, they're going to have reduced morale, whereas the Triarii are more likely to be more loyal to the Brutii faction. So that's something you can consider. So naturally in the game, as the Brutii expects you to expand easterly, in the easterly direction, and take on the force of Macedon and Greece and all this around here. You don't have to do this, you do have freedom, but it makes logical sense for the Brutii to go after Greece. This area is hugely profitable. I mentioned it in my Scipii video, that going for Greece is always a good idea. It's difficult. The Macedonian troops, some of them are quite good. The Royal Pikemen, I know from experience, are quite good as the spearmen. But at the end of the day, take them, blitz them while they haven't got advanced troops, and while they haven't got large cities. And so that's what I would do. I would expand in this direction, and you also have access to, realistically, the first wonder of the world that you're going to see, which is the statue of Zeus at Olympia, +4 bonus to population loyalty, which is a hugely useful one. It means you can raise the tax rate, and it just means you don't have to worry about public order as much. And another thing I like to mention, a settlement which I think is a bit of it's a favourite of mine anyway, is Cydonia. It's this settlement here. And this is a very profitable settlement. There's lots of dyes available. It's great as a trading port, right in the middle of the Mediterranean. It's in a prime position for trading, so go after this place very quickly if you want good finances. And finances are very, very important in the early game as well, so that's quite useful to know. Yeah, as for that, I would expand in this direction. You don't have to, but I feel as the Brutii, in many ways, the Brutii is actually the easiest faction to play as, and I know a lot of people will disagree. Some people would say it's the Julii, because you have access to Gaul, and Gaul are weak, and you can just blitz Gaul, you can take the whole France and Spain very easily. But Brutii, it's quite nice how the game sort of eases you into it. For example, Apollonia is an easy rebel settlement to take, 3 units in. Militia hoplites are alright, that's probably the biggest threat to you, but they're not too difficult in all honesty. I don't even think they have good morale. They have poor morale, yeah, exactly. And they have 2 peltasts, which can easily be just rolled over by heavy infantry or cavalry or whatever. So Apollonia is easy to take. That's just a given that you can take that. And I believe if I turn off the fog of war, Termon is a settlement right up here. Oh, I've typed in Termon instead of Toggle Fog of War. This is interesting. Oh, sorry, Salona. And Termon is down here. Salona is up here. Another easy settlement, rebel Illyrian settlement to take. So that's easy, to be honest. It's got 4 garrison in it, but by the time you've taken Apollonia, you should have easily enough army to take that. So it's just 2 gifts that the game gives to you early on, and it eases you into it, and then you can go on and take bigger settlements. Termon, Larissa, and then the big boys, Athens, Corinth, and Sparta. Once you take these 3, you're going to be richer than everyone else, really. And Athens even starts off as a rebel settlement with a few units of garrison in, but you know, it's not even a proper faction unless Macedon or Greece take it early on. So that's what I'd recommend doing. If you are going to take, if you are going to think, well, I don't want to go for Greece first, where should I go? One settlement I would possibly recommend is Batavium. This is a favourite of mine as well. It's up here. Take it before the Julii do, basically. This town has huge population growth. You can't see it here, but you can get it up to 7 or 8% population growth per turn. And of course, what this means is that first of all, you're going to get increased tax revenue because there's more people in the city, but more importantly, you're going to get access to buildings and units earlier due to the fact that there's the city's going to grow quicker, and you can get up to a huge city quicker than a lot of these other settlements, particularly the other ones in Gaul or ones in even Greece, some areas. So if you're going to go for somewhere like that, Batavium's a nice place to take. And they're going to be so worried about the Julii, that's the Gauls. The Gauls are going to be so worried about the Julii. Batavium probably won't even be defended that well. So that's a place I would possibly recommend as well. So as for the Civil War, this is a big thing, obviously, in the game. You have your allies, your 3 other Roman factions, and in the end you turn on them. How would I defend against that? Well, the Brutii are in quite a decent position in the fact that they have 2 settlements on the Italian mainland, whereas the Scipii only have 1. And at this point, they're going to be battling out in North Africa. That's where they tend to expand if you leave them. So Capua should be relatively easy to take, and then you've got the whole of southern Italy secured. So that is somewhere I'd recommend. Other places I'd recommend expanding beforehand. Turkey can be quite good to expand into, but particularly a profitable area is always Egypt, particularly Alexandria and Memphis. And there's lots of wonders of the world round in the Middle East as well. So once you've taken Greece, I would go for Turkey and Egypt, but always make sure that when it comes down to civil war, you go for Capua straight away. Take the Sicilians out. Take the Scipii out of the equation. Leave them on the island of Sicily. They will have a good navy. The Scipii have the best navy out of all the Roman factions, but you can still have a good navy as well if you isolate them onto the North African continent and the island of Sicily. Then they're not going to be too much of a threat to you, in my opinion. So that's something I would recommend. I'd also like to look at the buildings available for the Brutii. So the Brutii have access to the same buildings as everyone else does, apart from the fact that their religious buildings are slightly different. And in my opinion, the religious buildings are the best in the game for the Roman factions. They have some really good religious buildings. So these are the temples available. There are 3. They are the shrines of Juno, Mercury, and Mars. So we're going to look at their respective pantheons. This is obviously the greatest level of temple, and a pantheon of Juno is public order bonus 25%, public health bonus of 25%, increase in tradable goods, and increase bonus to troops trained here. So this is all about happiness, of course, trade, and experience. A good place would be Cadonia possibly to have this because of the tradable goods increase. So Cadonia, for example, would be making even more money, and you can hike up the tax rate because people are going to be really happy as well. As for Mercury is about the public order bonus as well, the increase in tradable goods, the public health bonus, which increases the population growth if you have a good health bonus, and the experience to troops trained here as well. So as for the health bonus and the population growth, if you put a shrine to Mercury in, let's say, Patavium, it's even going to have even more crazy population growth. So if you really want a settlement to expand quickly, Mercury I'd recommend. And then Mars, finally, the god of war. We have the public health bonus as well, the tradable goods, the bonus to troops, but +3 experience to troops trained here. This is the best temple in my opinion for the Brutii. And they have the public order bonus due to happiness as well. But the +3 experience is great. It means they're going to be so much more effective in battle. And the +1 morale bonus is exceptionally good. It means they're going to fight for longer. Troops trained in a temple, Pantheon of Mars, are going to be damn nigh impossible to rout. They're going to fight to the last man, which is exactly what you want. Particularly as you're Roman, they thrive off heavy infantry, grueling fights where they go one-on-one against their foes. So that's something I definitely recommend. And of course you can train the Arcani here, which I mentioned in the previous episode if you want to go and see that. So other than that, the Brutii have the same buildings available as the other Roman factions. They are good buildings, many of them, but they're very similar, just variants of other factions, other civilized factions. So this is all really for today. It's just a few hopefully helpful tips for how to play the Brutii campaign, their units and their buildings, etc. Next will be the Julii, and then later on I will do faction guides for all the other factions as well. So keep an eye out for them. Thank you very much, and I'll see you around.